Hello world, this is Jaded Coach, and I'm doing a real quick Truthfire Journal reply to a question from Jaded Xai the Bee. I didn't get to it yesterday because I got off to a bit of a late start and lost my endurance as far as being on camera, but I'm looking forward to making that go further. I actually wanted to go further then, but I was a little under the weather. I still am, but I'm on the other side of it, so I'm getting better. So that feels good. But anyway, let me go ahead and get into this question, which is about Jaded Xai. Xai, okay, subjective, values-based discernment, adaptive subjective values-based discernment. Those who don't know, go look that up. I'm gonna go ahead and jump into the question here. All right, so she asks, a few months ago, it occurred to me that I become a misanthrope. By that, I don't mean that I wish ill upon people, quite the opposite. I want the best of humanity. Unfortunately, humanity is such shit and gives so few reasons to believe in it. All right. So this is kind of cool because the way you do things, Maya, as an Xai, it actually helps my powers flow. And then in return, I can do things that can be helpful to you. So, for example, this question and the way you ask this question, it is helpful for me to actually bring pod layer theory into a good question and be able to answer it and kind of show that aspect of the theory in a positive and upper level way. And then also the way you broke down also the response to how there's so many mistaken Xai alpha according to Typology Town that are probably most likely Nages. So that's good. So now I can try to return that favor here. All right, so on that, the first thing is I'm going to kind of use my Nai. And so I don't want you to think in any way I'm not pleased with what you're doing here. This is just the way that Nai Mojos, particularly Nai Alpha, they go about giving their gifts back. I kind of just sort of know, how does that fit with the all of things? All right, so the first thing is I have to talk about humanity is such shit. Humanity is not such shit. And since you brought it up regarding the mistaking Nijai for Nai-Z, those that mistake themselves as Nai-Z, or others might mistake them as Nai-Z or Z-Mojo, often means their Xai is jaded. And that's true. So one thing I'll try to do here is talk to your Z a bit. The Z simply does not support that. The math of things, the evidence of things, the Z and Vi of things doesn't support that humanity is such shit. We are the most elevated consciousness there is, and we're getting more so all the time, but we have ups and downs, we have rough patches, and we're in one of those right now. But it's a growing period. Growing period often have a lot of growing pains. It can be ugly, it can be messy. But that doesn't mean that humanity is in some way lacking. Natural law is awesome, and we are the greatest energetic creation of natural law that we know of so far. So that can't be bad. There's too many great things we've done, but there's the full range of bad done really badly because the powers humans have, and the good we can do because those powers. It's a huge range. So it's very important not to mistake a portion of the range for the range. And that can be easy to do based on one's just personal life circumstances and the location they're in general, and the period of time that they are in history also can change what part of the range of humanity you're looking at. So I will say that the state of humanity is kind of lousy. That's true. And so that's where, if we just make these subtle corrections in the beginning, later on, as you spool out what that means for different kinds of implications, all the way to like very real life implications and pushing out with it, being in line from the very beginning is crucial. Being offline from the beginning will make all the, this is where, for example, Typology Town, they can't come with really good answers because they're not basing it off of any kind of solid ground. You have to have some solid ground, and then you make jumps from there. And then you come back and check yourself. All right, so that's the first thing, is that the state of humanity is lousy right now. But, there we go. But humanity itself is awesome and amazing. Okay, so let me see what else here. Okay, you're talking about basically global warming. That's bad, true. Species are dying all the time, also true. Okay. All right, so the next one you bring up is that even hunter-gatherers drove other species to extinction, practiced headhunting, often went to war, and so forth. All right, so this brings up another thing I wanted to mention that Nye can be helpful with, which is the long-term planning or long-term just looking at things. So let's talk about understanding. Well, you're talking about the headhunting. All right, by the time we're talking headhunting, actually that's where it's showing up with records that can be found now. But in order for that to happen, the Nye of it is you would need precursors to that. So to be doing headhunting and freaky stuff like that, which not all humans do, but some did, okay, that was their particular way. Now that gets into it, their way, where'd that come from? All right, you have understanding story, which humans have done better than the other animals for a long time now. And it's that understanding of story that gives us all these advantages. I believe it has to do with us being small mammals that had to figure things out on a very varied landscape, and being omnivores, we had to be very creative, and also network and big memories, also very helpful. Anyway, that's a discussion for another day. The point is, the greater understanding, humans have that, and then they're going to shape it, grow it, and critically, they're going to codify it. They're going to make it culture. They're going to teach it. All right, so that becomes story expression. You have tools, you have fire. This gets more elaborate as humans get even more time on their hands. Proto-language, language, oral tradition, written tradition, and then lifelong ceremony. Kind of like almost Nye to be there in the SS Index. All during that, there's advantages trying to, have the vie of how to do fire, because you don't want to learn that from scratch every time. But the advantages also have a built-in danger, which is that when one learned how to do fire, maybe the time they're learning that, their understanding of other concepts of natural law aren't so high level. And so some of that is going to overlap into their conceptualization of fire. At some point, you need to free it of that. So current usage of anything is not the thing itself. Okay. So right now, everyone is basically in lifelong ceremony, where their V is controlled from day one. Even very primitive societies, pretty much, if they have face paint, bones sticking out of their ears, I mean, even very simple stuff, but do they have it? Does anyone else around them have it? Okay, that's a tradition, and that's what they consider life to be. Powerful, but also very confining in certain ways. So you want to make sure it's not confining by making it as close to truth as possible. Otherwise, it's a prison you've made for yourself. All right, let's talk about the prison syndrome. Right now, we are in prison syndrome, so you can't evaluate peak pathways based on every peak pathway you've ever met, including yourself, has been in a prison situation. The peak pathway is hijacked by the wants and needs of culture and technology that are already in place and have wants and needs of their own, but they are created by peak pathways without peak pathways knowing what they're doing. So the machines, they're already here. People are like, oh, the machines are going to take over. They already did that. Wall Street doesn't belong to anyone. It's just a big thing that controls a bunch of stuff to such a point that most humans can't think of anything when they get around it other than, how do I win at it? The idea of, oh, this is not natural law, that gets very hard to see when you're directly in its presence, because it's so messed up and so powerful. All right. What else here? So, like, definition of misanthrope is like a hatred or mistrust of humanity, and that's just incorrect. And it's really important. I guess analogy would be the Matrix, because I don't want you to think I'm being all touchy-feely here, Maya, like just some wifty idealist. I've had a very interesting life. I have a very naturalist view of things, from the urban landscape to the wilderness. I have a naturalist view of the world. It's a very spiritual view, but first is observing nature. That's where I come from. So even we're talking about here, is the fact that the peak pathways have gotten jumped. They've basically been appropriated by these engines that are in place that have gotten out of humans' control. And so, like the Matrix, when you are dealing with them, they may be addicted to toxicity and stupidity to the point where you can't really deal with them right now. And if you do have to deal with them, you will have to deal with them firmly in a perhaps even adversarial capacity. That still doesn't change the value and the beauty and the just sheer genius of the human design. Like the internet. There's some, people do with the internet. Okay, there's some really, inappropriate stuff being done by the on the internet, but that doesn't make the internet not the incredible tool for humanity that it is. So, I guess that's just very important, because Xai can come from the point of view, and I understand this, that I've been hurt. I've been hurt. There needs someone to blame. And it's true. You do need someone to blame, but it has to be the correct thing. This is actually where Podler came from, because I had things growing up being the only white family in Baltimore, the neighborhood I was in. So it was pretty rough. My parents on their own are very intense individuals doing their own kind of Naiji double hunter Kensei thing. So coming from that point of view, I'm like, what do I do with these intense forces on me? And it can be like, oh, it's like they're doing this wrong to me. And that is true in the short view of it. But in the bigger view, they were wronged, and they were wronged by those that wronged them were wronged. And there's a whole bunch of wronging that got stacked and is now slamming into me. I may need to throw some elbows to get that off of me, but it's important not to let that change my view of humanity. It's just because of this very particular, world prison situation that we're in. Because it's hard. It really is. It's very hard when you get a bloody nose from the world to not, you're wrong. I didn't deserve that. And so you're evil. And that makes the kind of thing you are, which is a human, evil. No, it's not true. It's not true. It's not true. It's not true. Because you just have to separate the instrument from the music it's playing. Even the most beautiful instruments can play stupid, ugly music. But that doesn't make the instrument bad, and that doesn't make music bad. But you'll need to change the station. You'll need to change the station, and it's called dilution. I've mentioned this concept before. When you've had wrong done to you, or you even done wrong yourself, you can't make it go away. So most people try to ignore it, like it didn't happen. That doesn't work. Or they think it can't be gotten past, and that's not true either. The truth is it'll be there. If your Xai was injured by inappropriate behavior by humans that didn't know what they were doing. But it'll help you internalize it, that this is something that a hero must understand. Doesn't mean that you're going to let people off the hook. You still have to be accountable for your actions. That's the Z of it. If you have succumbed to toxicity addiction, then you'll have to be dealt with, and at least ignored. Next from there is quarantine, and so forth. because as much as you love humanity, when you keep that love, it can be difficult. But the way to do it is to separate these streams. If the streams are not separated, then it's nearly impossible. If you separate, it can be done, which is manifestations of humanity versus humanity itself. Because we've all had mojo, which is the most amazing thing there is. I mean, if you like art, it's the most amazing art. Do you like science? It's the most amazing science. Do you like story? It's the most amazing story. There's really nothing. It's just amazing. It's also been every time a human did stuff to you on a small and large scale that was messed up, that was mojo too. Those were maneuvers made by the most amazing thing. Your Xai is going to even turn. It's going to be a great deal of poignancy, which is the loss, the waste of this incredible gift, and that allows you to make sure you don't let yourself be wasted. Your Xai is very strong that way. It absolutely defends others absolutely from having any more waste of their peak pathway, while not turning on humanity. It's more like humanity is being zombified. The horror. Your Xai must internalize that's horrible. And sometimes, oh shit, Dan's a zombie now, and he's trying to eat Fred. Oh shit, I had to shoot him. You know what I mean? And we were friends. We went fishing and stuff. I don't do fishing. I don't make it up. But anyway, we did stuff together, and we were friends. And oh man, so it can be difficult to have that pain. So after a while, you can become like that. That's a common theme in zombie movies, jadedness, which is Xai gets jaded, and then the Xi gets hardened. It doesn't care anymore. So yeah, Xi doesn't care. That's kind of like Jaded Xai, and then Xai with Z is sort of like messed up stuff is just what's supposed to happen. That's actually operational norm. It's not. It's just what's going on right now. But that can be tricky to see. But talking about it helps. Talking about it definitely helps, because then you're helping to tell the story, what's really going on to yourself, and to help vent the incredible welling of sadness and anger and longing that will come from, it shouldn't be like this. It should be, this incredible gift should be used to its best. So that can only happen if you can handle the pain. Xai that's been injured tends to go combinations of numb, jaded, lashing out with their Z, like, just sort of like just going in hard always. So, and a lot of times you'll see mixtures of those three, but they are just kind of distinct. And some Xai or any Xai module will be in one of those modes for, they may favor one of them a lot more than the others. Or they can just shift between them. But yeah, lashing out was just Z all the time, like almost like you're in a trauma center 24/7, and you just approach. Where's okay? Pretty much as soon as you walk up, you're just going to be assessed and handled by Z. That's one way of doing it. That kind of keeps their Xai from shutting down. The other option is, like I said, just becoming numb. And then the option is sort of like not numb, but like, that's what happens. Which there's some numbness in there as well, but it's more kind of wallowing. So it's not so much numb, it's more like wallowing of like, that's just how it happens. That's what I expected to happen. You know what? I went into today, I was like, it's going to be messed up. A human's going to do me wrong. They at least try to. And look, that's what happens. So really, I feel good that I'm validated. I'm validated that humanity sucks just like I thought it did. It's a way of trying to make yourself feel better. But you actually go with the fourth option here. Actually, should be the first option. The other three are the not so good ones. But of these four, the top option is to be able to handle the pain, the sadness, the horror of the situation, which is that the greatest works of art are currently hijacked, scarred, messed up, addicted to all kinds of toxic elements. And it's been going more difficult for free-thinking, heroic seekers for some time. But it always gets darkest before the dawn. If you look at the history of humans, there's always these revolutions. So this is bound to happen. It's just sometimes hard to see on the really big scale, because this what's happening right now. Pretty much, I would say fire, language, and mojo are on some kind of level as far as how big it is. And in between those are a long period of human sort of digesting. Oh, we have language. Oh, we have fire. No one else does. So now it's getting to the point with language has kind of dipped into consciousness. And recently, when I mean recently, like last few hundreds, a few thousand years, humans have really been getting into consciousness and what it means. Various ways of approaching and speculating in that case. But anyway, that's what they've been doing. And now with the Rosetta Stone, the human soul coming in, it's going to be a thing. And from that point going forward, it will simply be, not simply, but studying that and what it means. That will become the case and everyone's working on. But then that will generate another arc. We'll be much more evolved than we are now. There'll still be something we'll have to evolve to be better. You always have to evolve to be better. It's evolve or go extinct. That's just how it works. So right now, we're in a bit of a pinch period. One thing Nai might be able to help you with, Nai with Xi, is you have to detach, kind of shake off the crud, and then look at things from the perspective of, this is an ongoing game. How does the game work? It's the most amazing thing ever. The story, the game, the HRL RPG, whatever you want to call it, it's the most amazing thing ever. There's a lot of stupid players. And you're like, if there's a lot of stupid players, doesn't mean humanity's stupid. No. What happened was consciousness is just incredibly powerful. And over a period of time with language and culture and technology, improvements were made trying to understand things, but there were mistakes made. And often what happened was power. A mistake was made, but somehow it gave power. Maybe not as much power as it should have if it was done correctly, or it gave power in a limited capacity, even though it's wrong. And it's like, ooh, that's really cool. And someone fell to that temptation. Temporary power increase for, throwing back some stupidity and toxicity cocktails. A few humans doing that, it can build. It can build in a positive way, like say if humans are building, like say scientific evidence or spiritual consciousness understanding, that's good. But they also can build better toxicity and stupidity drugs. And no one really understood that's what's happening. Obviously, cultures had wars and everything, but there really was an understanding that we're in a game much bigger than any of us understood. To understand mojo, like you see what I'm doing now, you have to be talking about samples in the thousands and thousands from every region of the world to be getting it. Now in modern times, with modern photographs and video and internet and cable and everything else, it's now totally doable to get in this case. But they were unaware of the power being unleashed by their consciousness. When they gained consciousness, the language, the technology, they didn't realize, besides catching more fish, besides making grain work better, they were making demons. Demons of inappropriate, disproportionate advantage. And these demons built up and they snagged various people and they gathered other people who were like, let's just do this and we'll get more of this power. So this happens in the animal kingdom as well. When a creature gets deranged, often happens when they eat tainted food or things of that nature, they get a little goofy in the head. They'll do stuff that starts messing up how the species works. The thing is, though, with their more limited consciousness and limited ability to do artifacts and culture and technology, it's not going to last generally past that creature's lifetime. But humans, if they have some stupid, they can try to give their life meaning of like, I'm dying now. I can do this one thing, right? I can, kind of like King Uther. I have this really cool sword that I should just let people take and whoever's the best person can have it. No, I'm going to stick it in a stone to make everyone's life more difficult. Now it's cool because King Arthur ended up being the one who pulled it out and so forth, kind of made that happen. But just from Uther's point of view, some people will do that. If they stick it in the wrong place, and humans have not realized, that will mess everything up, and we don't really know how you deal with that. Because generally the way you deal with like culture that we don't like is you have your culture dominate their culture. Not realizing we need to study culture. We need to study what is humans do that makes the culture. So got a little excited there. But it's a very important point. All right, boom. I think I got a lot of stuff there. Talk about Xai versus, say, the Xai version with Xai being more directed. That is true. Being idealistic. Xai is meant to be idealistic. It's very important. Xai is supposed to be idealistic. Xi is supposed to have this desire to live a elevated code of conduct, and that's built into the hardwiring of humans. All humans have that, the Jez channel somewhere in their hierarchy. They have one of them's power conscious and one of them unconscious, and their other has it in a way that makes them really want to reach out and be cool to them. And all the powers actually raise you up to be heroic. But since we're talking about Jaded Xai, I'll just talk about the Jez there. Jez is meant to be heroic, but it's also meant to span all human experience. But it can get stuck in a section of it if that gets codified. Because fear is a very easy argument to make. And so the arguments that have been made previously by most countries, most cultures, nationalities that make cultures and say like, we are this, it has not been understood what is going on. That's the basic Xai that was like, don't do that. And that's the Xai you have to do. Pulling back what makes your culture what it is will naturally lead you to the base culture of all humans, which is Mojo, and that all humans are doing it together. But that's going to run you into problems with power that's in place. So power that's in place can never trump truth. So the state of humanity never trumps the truth of humanity, the design of it, the way of it. Keep that in mind. And one thing that Nexi and Serenity want me to pass on to you is this. There's being able to handle the pain, and then there's also the pleasure and the pride. The pleasure is knowing that you are actually part of a great, wonderful species. If you can handle the pain of how addicted and zombified everyone mostly is right now, then you can realize and appreciate the beauty. I'm a member of an amazing species that has done amazing things. There's some of us right now doing amazing things, and we can do more amazing things in the future. In fact, the future is dependent on us, and we can totally do it. If we pull our head out of our buttocks, we can totally do it. We should win. That's the G of it. This team should win. It's being stupid right now, but this team, based on the talent it has and the way its trajectory has been going, we've overcome a lot of stuff, going from running around like little mammals to being where we are now as humans. A lot of things have been done right, and keep elevating us to being creatures I'm more and more proud to say that I am. All right, so there's the beauty. Oh, now I've got the pride. Right, it goes naturally to the pride, which is, well, that's the pride and the sort of pleasure part. But now this, as far as men's pride, defiance. Do not let circumstance take beauty from you. It's your birthright. It's your birthright to be a part of the most amazing species that we know of so far. It's the most incredible story. Right now, it's in a dark period, and what's going to happen for, Team Humans. But it is your birthright to know you're a part of something great. And the demons will attempt to lessen your pain by saying, just go jaded. You'll feel the pain less. That's true. You'll also feel the pleasure less. You'll also feel proper pride less. So don't let them take your pride. Don't let them take your pleasure. And you know what? Don't let them take your pain. It's yours. Xai feels a lot of pain in its way. Nai and Xai both have that element. It's one of the reasons they have a lot of similarities in certain ways, even though they're adaptive versus directive. But the pain allows you to live a heightened experience. So the fact that you feel it and can handle it, it gives you access to experiences that other humans, just as far as specialization within Mojo, but humans in general have Xai to a much higher degree than any other species we know of. So that's their birthright to feel those things, to feel empathy for other creatures, to feel empathy for other humans who are messed up, which is why he probably wrote this question, because you want to write humans off, but you can't. One, because you don't want to be a bad person. You don't want to actually have this bad relationship with your own species. And then the Z of it is, you're like, I don't think that's actually true. It's not. Technically, it's not actually true. But when you're being wronged, you want to explain it so that there's something to blame. But here, what is needed to be blamed, the villain, kind of Xi personifying it, I don't know if it'll satisfy you, but this is actually the answer. It was a lot of few individuals. Few individuals throughout human history were messing things up, but the whole population didn't realize that that can actually stay like a virus. They didn't really understand how things can go viral. Did not really understand that concept. So all these little errors built up over time from those people, and then within each generation, so the few of them, but over a long period of time, it adds up. And then within each generation, everyone is doing these little flaws so that they seem normal. You know, you're like, how did we arrive at binding women's feet to smush them all up in shoes? How did we get here? Okay, you don't just get there overnight. Now, if you're there, like, this is this thing here, and this person, and this group, and that's why it's like this. You know what? Humans just do this. No. Humans from other parts of the world, different times, don't necessarily do that. And even people from that area don't necessarily do that all the time. And they didn't do it after that period of time. There's a period of time where you're smashing up ladies' feet ridiculously. Why are you doing this? There is a building of lifelong ceremony trumping the way of things. It never does. But it can be tricky. That's why the matrix analogy comes in, because you don't know anything else from day one, which is, if this person says that, I do this. If this person says that, I do this. Next generation, same thing. Next generation, same thing. Next generation, somehow we're doing this thing with people's feet. I'm just making that up now, but there's all kinds of analogies all over the world. No one is immune to this. East, west, north, south, old days, modern days. This phenomenon of lots of tiny accumulated human errors that didn't go away. That's the crucial element. 9 Vi, so powerful, but they're so dangerous. Nai, because it finds natural law hacks. It's like, fire, cool, electricity, smashing atoms. Blah, blah, Mojo. It's like, what? It finds all these hacks into natural law, and then Vi records stuff so it goes beyond your lifetime. Those two things together, worldview, they're in control of stuff. But just because you hacked part of natural law doesn't mean you understand natural law necessarily. And just because something was correct to do at one point according to natural law doesn't mean it's still correct to do so. So anyway, that's why I always keep checking back. That's why the scientific method is wonderful, but it lacked the Mojo phenomenon, the human qualia phenomenon, to break into the human condition areas, soul, Tao, things of that nature. Yeah, so cool. I think it went on here a little bit because I'm a bit fatigued, which makes you think I actually should get off here. But I have to go back doing more emoji today, and I'm a bit fried. But I'm trying to set a pretty fierce pace, so I have to get back to it. All right, so I probably should sign off. Make sure I hit everything I was supposed to say. Okay, bad and good are together. State is bad. And by the way, when I say bad and good together, I'm not talking like, oh, humans are a mixture of good and evil, kind of, way of looking at that binary. It's not true. The elevator enlightenment is us, the story of us. And DAR-U stuff is emergency programming. And even the DAR-U is not supposed to mess things up. It's supposed to handle emergencies. But sometimes it may handle it wrong, or it might handle it what seems like it's right. And so you're like, oh, when the Jaguars attacked, we do this and we rip off their tails and we swing it around. Well, maybe in a DAR-U moment that should actually happen. But somehow that now gets codified like that's the thing to do. And now they're just doing it for generations for no reason at all. So that happens a bit. So yeah, I guess basically it. Oh, one more. Journalism is recording these things. So I would say scientific method and journalism. When I say journalism, I'm also talking about history. Anytime you are giving the most accurate record of what happened, it can be a record of what just happened 5 seconds ago, so it's breaking news, or it can be an accurate record of what happened with Abraham Lincoln on a certain day at a certain time. As long as it's doing that, that is putting in everyone's face the actual truth of things. And the truth of things is that humans are awesome, and we're meant to win. So we have wonderful qualities of empathy and bravery and kindness and generosity, but we can be confused temporarily by short-term gains, short-term power bonuses. And then if we don't realize what's going on, if you don't actually have scientific method, if you don't have journalism, if you don't have basically being a seeker, being a truth seeker in some way to keep placing what you believe to be best truth up to something, and then keep even taking that and reevaluating the mirror. So keep holding up the best truth mirror you have to things, and then keep reevaluating the mirror. Keep changing that, putting it down, picking it back up again, seeing if it still stays true when you detach, reattach. All right, I guess that's basically it. If you have any more questions, go ahead and ask away, but I hope that'll help a little bit. So we're meant to win, and the tools are all there, and they're in place. And another thing that I might get help with is in the beginning stage of the next revolution, the building blocks are often very subtle, spread apart, and behind closed doors. So right now, the Rosetta Stone of the human soul is going to change everything. Not a lot of people really understand what's going on, but this battle that I and the rest of the team do every day, it's huge, because once this gets on the board, what can be stacked on that is going to explode like a rocket ship the human species into the future, into a better place. Leap like warp drive. So basically creating a warp drive. When you're building a warp drive, you don't go a lot of places when the warp drive is being built. Once it's built, game changer, and not a subtle one, a revolutionary one. So that's how it always works. So know that humans are awesome. We're meant to win, and we actually are in the process of winning. It's just in more of the percolation and early R&D phases. But ships are coming. Ships of enlightenment. All right, signing off. Back to Mojo.